I should call this when Operation Blame a Black Man goes wrong. So on the left, you see a woman by the name of Tuyet Ngoc Tran. And on the right, you see a man by the name of Itani Losangel Milleni. And this is formerly known as Trang Vu. And this man beat his wife to death, and that was his wife right there on the left, while also trying to get a life insurance payout via her, take custody of the children, and in the process, he found a way to blame a black man for the crime. Of course, as you can see by his mugshot, it didn't go the way he thought. So let's get into it. A Texas man was sentenced to spend 55 years in prison on Thursday for brutally murdering his wife in 2015. Itani Milleni, age 52, formerly known as Trang Vu, was charged with the murder of 48-year-old Tuyet Ngoc Tran in 2019, only after he attempted to cash in on his wife's life insurance policy. Tran was found bludgeoned to death in her own beauty school in Houston's Chinatown in July 2015. The scene suggested a robbery. However, police would soon come to believe the robbery was staged because most of the victims' cash and credit cards were untouched. When officers got there, they noted that it looked like a poorly staged robbery. Houston area prosecutor Lauren Byrne previously told Cron.com. So they pretty much figured out early on that this wasn't what he thought it was going to be. They knew kind of early on that this was a setup type of deal, and it just didn't look like your typical robbery. They said it looked staged. They just kind of figured, oh, yeah, something ain't right here. They picked it up early on. Phones, credit cards were still on her, and her car was driven around the block and abandoned. Milleni, as it turned out, was a long suspect in the case, though he changed his name just months after his wife's death, left the Houston area to work as a truck driver, and relinquished parental rights to the couple's children. It was the defendant's relationship with his children that would ultimately prove pivotal in the case. In 2017, Milleni moved to collect Tran's $275,000 life insurance policy rather than letting the benefits go to their children. Reliance Star Life Insurance Company, based in Minnesota, tried to stop him from obtaining those benefits, a 2017 federal lawsuit notes, because he was still considered a suspect in Tran's murder. That effort to keep the killer from profiting off his crime turned into insurance fraud case. And then investigators in that case slowly pieced together an altogether unflattering and incongruent picture of Milleni. In the months immediately preceding the murder, Tran had filed for divorce from her husband of 13 years. There was an ongoing custody battle between the husband and wife over the children Milleni quickly abandoned, along with his real name, just after she was dead. And there was crucially a history of domestic violence. On the day Tran died, Milleni met with the Texas Department of Family Protective Services caseworker as the first of two scheduled meetings in order to determine who would retain custody of the children. The state had previously removed the children from the home due to family violence. The second meeting would have been with Tran the next day, but of course she never made it. According to Cron.com, Harris County prosecutors would eventually use the evidence uncovered in the federal case to build their murder case against Milleni. In one filing in that federal case, lawyers for Milleni's children said the soon-to-be absent father told the caseworker that his children would be better off in foster care than with their mother because she only had a 5th grade education and only he could provide his children with the proper educational training. The children are now teenagers and have been in foster care all this time. In another filing, the federal case, Milleni blamed the murder of his wife on a black man who silently walked in and out of the salon on the day in question. That same night, Milleni claimed he left to go buy his wife flowers and saw the same man in the parking lot. U.S. District Judge Andrew S. Hainan noted in one order that those would-be flowers were never even purchased. Milleni was indicted in April 2019 and arrested the same month while unloading his 18-wheeler at a truck stop in Indiana. In June of this year, a mistrial was declared, wiping out nearly 2 weeks of testimony after jurors were subjected to a Jury Appreciation Week speech that cast their role as harbingers of justice for victims and their families, according to the Houston Chronicle. That is not, however, the role of jurors, who are impaneled to deliver impartial justice favoring no particular side. Milleni was tried again in September 2022. The trial only went for 6 days this time, according to the Houston area NBA affiliate KPRC. Jurors spent roughly 25 minutes deliberating before finding him guilty. On Wednesday, Milleni provided a letter to the court that accepted responsibility for Tran's death, the Chronicle reported. He thought he got away with murder, Harris County Assistant District Attorney Stephanie Abner said in comments reported by KPRC. We're happy that the victim and her family finally got justice because it was a long time coming. Whew, that was a crazy story. But first, let me just say this. How in the world did they come into a mistrial that first time? I mean, they had all the evidence there. Why in the hell did they get deadlocked into a mistrial? They should have found him guilty of sin the very first time. Good thing they went back and got him again, because they could have ended it right there. And this guy literally would have gotten away with murder. Now, it's crazy because I just did a story about an Asian man who violently was, domestically abusing his wife and tried to bury her alive. Y'all remember that one that I did? And she survived, luckily. Unfortunately, this woman did not. And what was it? Because she wanted to leave. Have y'all noticed that a lot of these Asian relationships, when the wife wants to leave, that's when the husband becomes extremely abusive, and then to the point where he almost wants to kill, and sometimes, in some cases, like this case here, actually does do it. And what's so sad about this story is that they had children. So the children got caught in the middle of this, and they ended up in foster care because of what he did. They didn't have anyone else to go to take care of them. They lost their mother and their father literally simultaneously. And he literally threw his kids into the middle of this, all for a life insurance policy. All for a $275,000 life insurance policy. This guy became greedy. And he was like, we were together for 13 years. No way you just going to up and leave right now. And if you think you're going to leave, I'm going to leave with something. And he left with something. That was her blood on his hands. Because I didn't say anything in here that he got a hold of the life insurance policy. At least I hope he didn't. But that's crazy. And this guy was literally just floating through life after he did that, like it was nothing. Like he felt so nonchalant about it. And then, of course, he had to throw in the whole blame a black man thing. I keep telling people, when people do crimes like this and they find a way to blame a black person about it, as the reason as to why, and there wasn't no black person there, that should be seen as a hate crime. In my opinion, that was a racial act that he committed. Because he could have got a random black man hemmed up on a lie. But thankfully, those cops down there had some sense and realized early on that something was suspect about this whole so-called robbery, that picture that he was trying to paint. They was like, something just doesn't seem right. And they picked that up early on in the investigation. But well before an investigation even happened. So send him up the river. In my opinion, he should have got life. But I guess they figured at his age, by the time his time is up, he'll probably be dead. But you never know. Evil doesn't die so quickly.